the atrocities that have happened to Black people similar to my grandmother, similar to our ancestors, what's happened to indigenous people. It's a story that is so profound.
Long trail of tears, iron chains laced with fears. We've been here for years, and somehow we're still here. Building dreams off his back, working hands to the bone, until the tables are turned. I can't let this go. Red stripes and white stars, brown face and red scars. No respect is shown in the place I call home. Who are you to tell me where I can and cannot be? I was born to be free, and you will respect.
I think my dad kind of had everybody afraid of him, because he would do stuff and get locked up.
So let me tell you about Lucille Moore. That is my grandmother. And praise be, she's still with us. My grandmother hasn't been in the best of health, but she can still walk, move, talk. She still cooks. She still does what she got to do. And I thought that a woman whom has, this was the 1920s, this is the 1930s, when she was a child, or in her, her childhood and young adulthood. And that seems ages ago for us, right? And when you think about it, really, this is the it's 2024. It's like, it's really 1924. It's the beginning of the century, and for me, being at my age, it's like, for her, it's like 1924 at about being in her 20s and her 30s. And it's 2024, me here in my 20s. It's like, it's such a contrast when you really think about it. And it's her story that, she mentioned herself, that a lot of people don't know. And I think that was her story was so profound and so essential. I said I would not release this album without her words on it, because they are so essential.
We didn't play a whole lot. We worked a lot. We helped with sawing wood with the double saw to cook and to keep warm. We had to quilt in this winter when the weather is too bad to be out in the field. We had to sew quilt or make pillows.
Growing up in Mississippi, in the dirty South, in a time where us Black folks had to deal with segregation, we didn't have the same rights. It's the disrespect, it's the belittling, it's, seeing us as insignificant. It's her living a simple life, her living it the same way many of us would in our young adult lives, but with struggles that we could not fathom today. Like she says, sharecropping. That's damn near slavery, right? At the turn of the century, where slavery, had relatively just recently been abolished, living in poverty, mosquitoes, and you're not getting paid for your labor.
And to go through with what we was going through, and the heat and the mosquitoes were so bad, and you didn't have screens on your windows to.
You went a time where you went into the store and you couldn't put on the clothes that were displayed because you were Black. Just, In Worn Boots and Woes, it talks a lot about being a black person and demanding respect, because in this day and age, we simply won't tolerate that type of behavior.
Brown skin offend you every day. I was born to be free, and you will respect me.
But it's a time that she had to live through. And it's so amazing because it's my great grandfather, her father, who was a black man who didn't tolerate that and who was never going to tolerate that. And I resonate with that because I have patience. I have very little patience for people these days. I have very little patience for disrespect, for rudeness, to be overlooked, to be talked over. I have very little patience for that. And it's the fact that that man was just about as aggressive as I am and still lived. Now, if you listen to the story, you see how he passed away. But it wasn't by the hands of nobody else. It's the fact that that story speaks volumes.
Respect me, oh, Mississippi, dirty South. Don't raise your guns and your flag to the so-called land of the free. Oh, Mississippi, dirty South, Mississippi.
I think that the fact that the way my grandmother said, so many people don't know the stories of what it was like to be a sharecropper in the dirty South in Mississippi, and the impact on how that has touched so many people and the lives that our ancestors have lived. You know, it's profound. I could not make this album without giving Granny a voice. It's the fact that she's lived such a life that I really needed to encapsulate her in this piece of work. You know, my grandmother is a woman who's given so much of her life to her kids and her stepkids. And I don't think people really appreciated her, respected her. I think she just really settled for the life that she was given, as is the time of, you know, the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s of being a woman, you know, and I wanted to pay my respects to her. I wanted to give her a voice. I wanted her to be known to the world because it matters. You know, I hope that the people that listen to this and hear her voice know that that's the voice of a real person who's gone through many struggles we today would never know. And she deserves to be honored. And there's many other people and many other black women who have gone through those struggles. And it's a message to what this country was, how this country was built, and built off of our backs. Like I said, you know, hands worn down to the bone. Like me, like how we still work to make $1. And for them, they didn't get paid for it. Listen, it was profound. It's essential. You got to hear it. You got to hear it. You got to hear the deeper meaning.
I think that's enough melancholy and sadness. We're here in the good old Panhandle state of Texas, and here we'll only sing good old-fashioned country music.
So, you know, I think a narrator was essential on this album. I wanted him there because the monologues that I used and that I have in Mars, the point of the monologues is to make you stop and pause and listen to what it is that we are trying to drive home in the music. If you miss the lyrics and you're focused on the melody, or you're not really hearing what I'm saying, it's meant to make you stop and reel you back in to focus on what we're here to tell you. And the monologues and what Rufus McKenzie says is supposed to make you reflect. You know, like he says, I'm a kind soul that's going to guide you through these tracks.
Now, who I am is not important. I'm just a kind soul that's going to guide y'all through these short tracks and bring y'all some clarity. And as is country music, there's a lot of storytelling. So go on, get cozy whilst I read you these stories.
Because Heartstrings and Highways is a story. It is a, oh my goodness, how many tracks do I have on there? It is a 15 track story. And every lyric that I wrote, every piece, every line is supposed to give you insight on the bigger meaning of the story. And, you know, he's supposed to direct you to remind you what we came here to do, what the deeper meaning of the situation is. He's supposed to be the motivational speaker that is supposed to guide you all and the listeners to really reflect on your own life. You're supposed to reflect and see where you can change, where you can make improvements, because I'm striving to make improvements in my own life. And I hope that my story and my grandmother's story and the stories of others makes you all reflect and look inward. It questions your values, your principles. How can we move forward to be better as Americans, better as people, better to our neighbors?
And for the past listening experience, that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I like to call a good old, raw, authentic Southern story of selfhood and identity. Now, hopefully some of y'all have been inspired to start a new path in your life, or you've already started and now you're living it.
You know, and as is Southern hospitality and Southern values, you know, how does that play into those who are prejudiced? You know, what does it mean to be American and a Southern American, a Black Southern American, a Latin Southern American, or not even Southern in the Midwest where I'm from? You know, it makes you question. It's supposed to make you reflect on how you can be better. What can you do to make your life better? How can you be better to thy neighbor? Right? That's the importance of it all. And I think that being true to myself and being someone who is not Southern, I think that I want you to really listen to a perspective of someone who's looking from the outside in, because I am a wannabe Southerner. I do want to be Southern, but I'm not. It's the fact that, you know, just like there are many other country singers who don't come from the American South, but they have a take on country music, how does their background influence this genre, influence this story? And I'm coming with a story, a purpose, and a meaning and a theme. And I want you all to reflect. I want you all to think about what it means to be Black, American, Southern, all these things. Question your values. You know, let's be kinder. You know, let's do right by each other. It's a better world that I'm trying to live in, and you know, hopefully remains true in the values that they keep in the South.
But I can speak for myself. Glory to God. Oh, my brothers and my sisters, is there anybody in church this afternoon
I'd like to
who
read
is
an
grateful
excerpt for
that
y'all
every
from
now
someone
and then
many of you
God
know,
will open up his
named
own
Miss
mouth
Tubman.
and begin to speak?
She says here, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. And ladies and gentlemen, based on this next track, for those who have not educated themselves, you could say we're still at that point.
It really hurts my heart to see the way the Black community has, the way they treat some of us. You know, it be your own kind, really, that doesn't have your back. And it's the way that I don't think many Black people understand. The reason I really tried to drive this home in Book of Lies, I don't think you all really understand that some of our ancestors, because let's be clear, not all of our ancestors and not all of us were slaves or lived and died slaves, but a lot of us and a lot of our ancestors that came from the transatlantic slave were told what? That God and Christ and X, Y, and Z is what you should pray to. And we have forgotten our language. We have forgotten our own indigenous practices, right? And these rules, and I know this is controversial, but I said I don't talk about politics and I don't talk about religion, yet Book of Lies and Born Boots and Woes exist. So I guess here we are. But let us not forget that we were dragged over here in chains. Slavery existed in this country for 200 years, and these black Southerners cling on to Christ. Let us not forget that the words that are in the Bible contradict our interests.
You know, try to lift themselves up because you're there trying to make it, and the white man is laying on your neck and looking to God for help and to go through.
It's just like that was not a part of our history. That was imposed on us, on indigenous people, on Latin people. That is a religion that was forced on us. And yet to this day, black Southerners will still claim that religion when it works against us and you. And I asked my grandmother, why do you hold on to this when it does not serve us? It's a means to control people. And she is right in one aspect, that when it gets hard, when it gets tough, you do need a faith. You do need a faith to get you through the rough times. And I know it has gotten me through the rough times. But it's what comes with the rest of that scripture that's questionable. Because my own mother is so strong in her conviction that I feel she has moved further from me, and we have become more at odds in our belief systems. And I feel that's why I feel like it is a dividing religion. It is a dividing religion.
Destroying as you please, wrapped in chains and hauled across the sea, praying to a God that don't belong to me. Good Lord, won't you say a prayer for me? Hallelujah.
It's essential for me to take a look at country music and make you question, well, what does country music really mean? Are the morals that come with country music actually in line with what we personally believe? That's, and I didn't really want to touch too much on this, but, it's there. It's essential because Christianity is a staple. It is a big part of the American South. So.
Now, envy is the fear that God will not bless you with the same gifts he has given others. Sometimes there are moments when you might feel lost, standing alone in the cold. But if you're a person with a strong moral code, then sometimes your heart and mind might be at odds with each other. You know that jealousy and envy is not the path to be tread, but you also can't deny how you feel. So a healthy way for some of y'all to get those emotions out is sometimes through song. And now for some good old-fashioned Southern country guitar with some lyrics that embody just that.
When I said I don't want to bring anybody or anything from St. Louis with me to Texas, right? It's like I'm wanting to purge myself of old things that no longer serve me. And there was a time where there was somebody that I had interest in, and I was trying to create a relationship with them, but the reality is, they were already involved with someone, and I backed away, but they still thought we could be friends, and so I tried that approach, but the reality is I could never really let go of my feelings, because they're so strong. But the way I see it, it's just the fact that love and relationships is always a core thing to me. It will always be a core thing because I want to be in love and I want a relationship. And while this is still personal to me, this album is still personal, you know, I'm never going to lose sight of the authenticity of me. And that's a core thing of me.
Stuck in love's bliss, rosy eye, blushing for a kiss. Then you took my hand and I don't wanna let go. And there I was, only 25, 11 arms caught me by surprise, striking matches and trying hard to light me up.
You know, there is only one sex song on this album because I'm done with sex. I'm done with talking about sex. I'm done talking about sexuality. Like, I did that. I did it, and I did it well when it came to the Mars albums. I'm done. But I do still talk about it because I still like it, and it's still, I think, a core part because it's intimacy, right? It precedes Rodeo, the song precedes Loving Arms, because Loving Arms is about romantic love and finding love, right? Oil Change is about meeting someone and like finding that love. And it's specific to me, but I think a lot of people can relate to that too. And Rodeo is supposed to be, you know, the physical intimacy with your partner. But Jonah, you know, in regards to that person, it's about, you know, it's supposed to be about me speaking to that person's partner and how I wish they would let them go so that I could have them.
Jonah, Jonah, it's obvious you don't compare to me. Jonah, 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 and I don't care if you call me Jolene.
Right? A play on Dolly Parton's Jolene, right? But it's an old mindset. It's an old mindset, an old belief that needs to change and transform into Loving Arms, where you finally find someone who is better and best suited for you.
And then I know they're right to leave St. Louis behind, 'cause since that moment you've been stuck in my mind. Affection and love like no other, 'cause cowboys make way better lovers.
You know, and that just really just drives home the point of change. And like, I'm done waiting, wishing, hoping on people that it's never going to come to fruition. Not in this city. You know, you have to leave the things behind that no longer serve you. And like I said, and looking out, like I said in Looking East, fruit don't grow in barren land. And this is barren land. You know, the South is where fertile land is to grow crops. You can't do that in the Midwest. You can't do that in New England. Fruit don't grow in barren land. So this just ain't for me.
What you wanna do, day one, taking care of you. Passion running through my blood and my soul. And here you are, bending on one knee, saying that you'll commit to me, saying yes so happily you're mine.
You know, the bigger something is, because the Mars EPs were EPs. There's 7-track pieces of work. 7 was a lot. That was 10 tracks. But Heartstrings and Highways is hard, or much. It was much more difficult because there's 15 tracks and there are samples that have to relate to the topic, lyrics that have to relate to the topic. It's sung a certain way. There's voices and narration that have to have meaning. It's not just, nothing that I do is without intention. Not in drawing, not in singing, not in writing. Nothing is irrelevant. Everything has a purpose, everything has a place. And the fact of trying to find all these tiny details that weave together, that all come to a certain point and all have a meaning, and finding a way for them to relate to each other, that can be much more difficult. The more you have, the more you have to manage over. So I just feel like challenges that I faced, just making sure that everything was cohesive. It was the fact that you had to manage making sure your vocals sounded right, making sure everything stayed on beat, making sure that, you know, the right instrumental was chosen, make sure that the sample matches with this theme. How many themes can we put in here? Are we missing anything, right? All of that stuff was essential. Couldn't miss out. Couldn't miss out on it. I found that this interview is a lot more serious. I'm not playing as much, I'm not smiling as much, because it's serious, I think. Compared to the Mars albums, this is serious. And I'm trying to drive home a point that is emotional. You know, I had a point with Mars, but this is so much more groundbreaking, I think. It's so much more serious because it holds so much more weight, is what it is. This album holds so much more weight.
Thank God I got a new